the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is a presentation of the February 2025 financial statements.
Just want to remind, we do have a walkable item.
Oh, and when you came in, there was an item, you have an updated and amended agenda as well as the documents for that item, and you also, which is the walk-on item. And then that's for resolution 2025, and you also have a clear final copy of the bylaws that was waiting for you, and that was just for aesthetics. Now we're ready for the financial presentation.
Good evening, board. Tonight you have before you the February 2025 financials, which accounts for account balances in each line item, which also tracks the expenditures for the year. I mean, for the month. If there's any questions that anybody have, it's time to prepare to answer.
Are there any questions?
I have a question. We have not received the county CRA tax from the county yet.
We get that every year, December.
December, you already have it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And how much was that again?
I don't have it. For
218, no.
Where is it on this? Where is it on this report as far as revenue?
We got 132 and 218.
Yeah, so one of them we've gotten and the other one.
Yeah, I'm gonna come to the. Thank you.
So one we've gotten and one we have. So and it shows which one we've put in there.
218.
Yeah, but I mean like up in here. Where is it here?
On the top,
We already have it.
the CRA taxes are the 15 income tax, so it's the CRA taxes are,
Oh, okay.
and they have not paid the tip payment we've got. So they haven't, we've sent it back to them and they haven't resent it to us. It's a little bit of a process that they do, so we have not received.
So we haven't received it yet. Okay, so we are anticipating 132, 132,000. Okay. And I did have a question about on the second page for the grant program, the paint grant and page. The three
PPP.
the three Ps.
The 3 Ps.
Difficult sometimes to say. PPP. There you go. Thank you. $4,000. Now, what were those on? I remember just a few of them.
There was just one. There was one person that got the 4,000.
The 4,000. Okay. Well, we should have the one house that was demolished. We have a paint job from.
Yeah, they
Another
never
resident.
submitted additional paperwork, so the only one that we have is the 4,000.
Okay, what project was that? Do you remember?
This is the gentleman on Catherine. Is that the gentleman for the fence on Catherine?
We
I forgot his name.
the area, something like
Yeah, I
that,
know.
yeah.
It was a gentleman on Catherine.
So Miss Curry never submitted her.
Nobody said it.
She didn't. Oh, okay. And what about Mrs. Thomas? Did she submit her?
Yes,
This is a part of that too.
I think that's under a different program.
Coming this year.
You know, I mean, before the most recent fiscal year,
Yeah.
weren't those in last fiscal
That
year,
was in the last. No, yeah, it was in.
September of before,
Right.
of last year, so they wouldn't be in,
They wouldn't be in the
we would have a new safety balance.
last fiscal year.
Oh, okay. Okay, now the historic grant program, I see those, are those transactions that are made to the architect?
Yes. Yes.
Is there anyone else?
Only
Okay. Right. I got one last question. Do we know how much we have in the bank yet, sir?
I don't have bank balance for me, but for the end of February. Minus the transaction, so it'd be the difference of the transaction purchase minus what's up around that.
It's, yeah, we have to go look it up. I don't get the bank down, the banks, let's see.
Okay,
And she go look it up and come back.
I can, yeah.
While we're waiting, we can go on to citizen participation.
Yes, we have Candace Finley.
Good evening, everyone. I was just here to talk about the plans for the street funding. I'm just trying to figure out why it just popped up all of a sudden. It's affecting a street that's, where I live. I think everybody here has been to that location and you know the size of it. And what is being, brought before us is not fitting the size, nor has any community, insight or anything has been put into it. So I don't know what kind of game is really being played with that, but what is the real plan for purchase? Not enough research from what I see, from what I heard yesterday, because from my understanding, it was just brought up yesterday. So if it had, had some additional information, then maybe so, but I don't really see what kind of information is pushing everybody forward to, well, not everybody, majority wise, forward to purchase this property. And with the plans of turning to a cultural center. So again, if that's not the issue, what's the plan B? What's the plan C? What's the plan D? There's no other plan besides this, even though it's saying that this is and this may not be what's etched in stone. What is etched in stone? Which is one right now, the purchase of the property, but why? This is my community. I live right across the street from the pool, so here in the community, on one end, supporting the community, and on the other end, I'm a resident. So this can't come from anywhere but from where it is. So I don't understand what's going on. The projects that we already have out, we got a lot of things going on in the community that need utmost attention. So this right here, I think it's something little. We got bigger fish to fry. So I'm not understanding what the purpose of purchasing this property and the plans for it is. If it's a situation where somebody may be coming in, having plans to raise property taxes to affect the community in a certain kind of way, okay, cool. But that's not what's presented to us, that it's a emergency for that situation. So speaking from a community resident that lives on Elizabeth Street, what kind of game is going on? We need more community insight on this. We need to know what's really going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Angela Johnson.
Good evening, board, executive director, fellow residents. I'm going to speak on a number of things, and I really am hopeful that the attorney, although he may not be able to answer me directly, will answer this question for the good of the board. At the last special meeting, there was a request by Executive Director Mike Johnson to do a budget amendment. That budget amendment failed. We go through a budget process as a governmental entity to budget money on specific line items. So my understanding in conversations with the executive director, it feels as though he deems it necessary or that he has the authority to spend money any way that he wants to, regardless of if it's on a budget line item. So attorney, if you could please provide the legal guidance of when a budget is established by a governmental entity, thus the town of Eatonville CRA, if there are insufficient funds on a budget line item, if a budget amendment was denied, can you spend the money without it being an emergency of spending. So if you could please answer that question for the good of this board before they vote tonight. And I also say tonight regarding the purchase of the property on West Street for the Culture Center, which the plans still all, they say Recreation Center. And Mayor, I sent you an email and I am hopeful that there will be a written response to all of the questions that have been asked. I agree with Dr. Finley. You're putting a large commercial building in a red smack dab in the middle of a residential community without even talking to your community and your constituents that put you in office. So before you vote to move forward with that purchase tonight, one, I feel that the finance person should have brought what your current fund balance is. You know, instead of saying, we have it, we have this amount, or on the cover sheet, it states that there is gonna be $800,000 remaining. But without you guys having the information, I think that you would be doing a disservice to the residents by one, voting to approve the purchase of this property without one, having a clear understanding from the attorney as to whether or not you could spend it if it's not budgeted on a budget line item. Secondly, I want to talk about the bylaws and the supermajority. Supermajority is throughout bylaws now. What is wrong with the simple majority? It did not require supermajority to hire the executive director. It shouldn't require one to terminate or for a number of things in here. It seems as though these bylaws are being written again for us to go right back into where there is, it's not a democracy, but where he can do and charge and make any decisions unilaterally.
Thank you.
We have Miss Joyce Harvey.
Every decision is designed to say, excuse me, fuck the people. You already know that. Me talking, you talking, Dr. Finley talking, doesn't matter. Because we honor trifling, foot dragging, stupidity, swindling, thieving, all of that. Councilwoman Randolph and Councilman Daniels, I wish I could have been here to support you in advocating for the people that don't mean anything to the people up here. That is a fact. I'm saying it, it's coming out of my mouth. I ain't scared of no damn body. Nobody.
Please watch your language.
Okay, I apologize for saying that. What?
Correct.
No, please continue, please continue,
Really?
People's good, but.
please continue.
You know what? I was comment on one thing she said, what the threat is your behavior in completely ignoring the will of the people. That's the threat. And when I found out that Mr. Presley said he did not even speak to two of the council people because the Edgewater High School Alumni Investment Group had it locked up already, I guess he didn't have to. And I want to thank you, Councilman Mack, for at least bringing that up so we can be aware of that they weren't even consulted on this stuff. Y'all do what y'all want to, but it's a change coming.
That was the last.
Do we have an update on the ballots?
The balance is $1,797,879 as of February 28th.
Thank you.
1,700,000.
$97,879.28 as of February 20th.
So in order, can I ask a question about that, please? So in order, pardon?
That doesn't reflect the recent quotes.
Doesn't reflect, the month of March, right?
So, March.
Well, be honest about it. I just wanted to know what we had in say overall. It wasn't about ending in February. And I know, I'm glad you got that number for February. Because that does kind of calculates to what I saw in the reports. But, yeah, 1.7 million and got 1.4 million as of today. So that 300 and some $1,000 was deducted from that.
All right. Then please hold your comment, please. That's out of respect. Thank you. The next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Good.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. The consent agenda has been approved. The next item is the discussion of the CRA bylaws. Are there any?
I would like to go ahead, share. Permitted to.
Yes.
Okay. This item has been, I can say, been taking a space rock for the last, I would say, almost like 6 months, maybe a little longer than that. Because we started this back in 2024. Apparently, for whatever reason, someone found it necessary that they felt a group or individual, it doesn't matter who, found it necessary to change the bylaws. Now, the bylaws were established around mid-year 2023 when we adjusted the bylaws. So what has happened since that time? That someone took it upon themselves to think that we need to have new bylaws. One of those, as was previously mentioned, was about the supermajority. Our charter, we're still governed under the charter. Our charter for the town of Eatonville is not by supermajority. It's by simple single vote and by majority. So we have 5 on the board for the town, which there will be 3 for the majority when a vote. Now they want to change it on the CRA, so that way, rather than have a majority, which is 4, a board of 7, they want to make it 5. Now, I don't know the reason what's behind that, but in my mind, that just builds up an extra protection for somebody to be saved. And it's all about termination. What about when you hire a person? If you're going to have supermajority for everything. And then we'll see exactly what is going to get done. I see no need in us moving forward with that. And by the way, I did a report on this before, and I'm going to show you all. This column right here is the proposed column. There's 28 items, which is under the articles for the new proposal, for the new bylaws. The ones that are not highlighted from here all the way down, and on this page here, all the way down. I know most of you cannot see it. We have 50 items under the article, which is sections under the article that the bylaws which we had before. 50. It's being reduced down to 22. And you know what's the sad thing about it? And that is this. We will pay the consequences for something that comes up that is not covered under the bylaws. Okay? First of all, I think it's a conflict of interest for the executive director to be engaged in creating bylaws, and about one portion of the bylaws has to do with the executive director as far as his job and his performance, as to how he or she responds to the board. Okay? So it's not in our charter, and the consequences, like I had said, is when we don't adhere to the bylaws, it leads to a lot of issues, lawsuits, potential for damages. We can probably lose our status as a CRA when we don't follow our own bylaws. All of the directors up here, is 7 of us. We are held accountable for everything that goes on in our organization. And we are supposed to adhere to the bylaws and do the right thing. Do the right thing according to the law. So I am totally against changing all of this unless we meet to the table, and this is what we had discussed before. This was supposed to be tabled for a special meeting for us to go over the bylaws and do the right thing, not for one person to take them upon themselves to change it. And since we left here the last time, there's been more changes to the bylaws that were inserted that I didn't know anything about, highlighted in red. So we have change. Look at here, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, residents. This whole thing right here is all about bylaws since the beginning up to now. Copies right here. We've had 4 different bylaws submitted to this board, and we have not been able to move forward and get anything done because somebody or someone or some bodies with the S find it necessary to do what they want to do that's going to work in their favor. Okay? I'm not with that. So I'm going to do the right thing, whether it pass or fail. But you know something? That's something that the residents, it's going to be sad on them because there's going to be a lot of issues that's going to come up that's not in the bylaws. Remember what I said. There's 22 that's not going to cover bylaws of how we govern things. Okay? So that's what I'm going to say. And I object to this being on the, for this to go for a decision to be made because we're supposed to go back and table this for a meeting to go over these bylaws. Thank you.
Is it possible to establish a method of attack if we are going to move forward with discussing this tonight? And I'm only asking because I don't want this to become some drawn out thing. If we can kind of put some structure to this conversation or this discussion for tonight, I feel like that might be productive. Can we establish how we're planning to attack dissecting this document tonight? Either the chair or the executive director.
I guess my view on it is, this is the same document that we were discussing in the last meeting. So during that time and during this time, then that would have been, because I spoke with the executive director just to clear up something that my intentions from the last meeting. So unless the best way, in the beginning, okay, so even if we went by 1 point each section, then if you have a particular section, that's the only way to do it.
Right.
1.1, 1.2, 1.3.
Okay, and the reason that I'm asking is because I do think that it's simple. I do hear your concerns, Director Randolph, and I know that since the last time we adjusted our bylaws, we've added 2 new members to our board or 2 returning members to our board. We've got a new executive director. We've had some changing of the guards at the chair and some of those things. So I'm open to the conversation, to the insight, to the perspective, to the mindset of what changes y'all might want to see in the bylaws. I am encouraging us to have some sort of structure if we're going to do this tonight. That way we're not here. The last time we did do it like that, Chair. We went section by section. We said, hey, we're completely fine. I think even Director Daniels mentioned something about, okay, we know sections 1.1 through 1.4 is kind of standard. We don't even have to touch it. There's no need to go through all of that. Okay, well, does anybody have any objections to section 2.1? Does anybody have any questions about, to your point, Director Randolph, okay, well, this used to be 2.1, it's no longer in here. Can we discuss this? Can we add this to the bottom? Just, I'm urging us to have some structure. That way this is not a drawn out dogfight.
Can I ask you a question,
Wait,
Director?
one moment, there's a hand over here.
I give it to.
Yes, sir.
All right, can I ask you, I'm gonna ask you, what's your interpretation of the supermajority? When you already a majority with 4 votes, what's the purpose of that?
If I can, I'll respond in 2 parts. So I am not in favor of the supermajority, and when we get to that, I'll be glad to elaborate. The second thing is that there are some people who are in favor of it, and I think it would be a disservice to the rest of the board to deny them the opportunity to explain themselves. This is the only forum that we can have an open discussion in. I can't call you when we leave and say, Director Randolph, can you tell me how you feel that's sunshine? So I'm open to having the conversation. I'm open to hearing what people have to say. I just was hoping that we could have some structure with it tonight. But I say that because when we get to the supermajority, I want to be heard as it relates to my thoughts on the supermajority. When we get to the section about special meetings or emergency meetings, I would like to be heard and understood when it comes to that amongst the board. I want to provide that same courtesy. I want to honor that same mindset. I want to understand why the supermajority is so important to Director Mack. I want to understand why the special meetings is so important to, Director whoever. I just want to have a conversation. I want to have a conversation. I just want to do it with some structure. And it's not just one thing, because to your point, I'm sorry, Director Matt, to your point, Chair Gardner, I didn't submit anything to Executive Director Johnson because I voted on it last day. And I said what I needed to say the last time around. Now, there are some new adjustments that others have submitted that they want to add in. I think it's fair to give them the floor to have that discussion. I don't have any additional things to add. And then because other people have said that they want to add things, it's not fair for me to go to Director Johnson and say, no, take that out. No, let's have a conversation. There are new personalities on this board, and that's fair because when the guard changes, it will probably come up for conversation again. And that's how this game goes. We understand that people come and people go in these seats. And so there will be different perspectives, different priorities. There will be things that are important to different, people on this board. So I want to give the space to have the conversation, knowing we can't have this conversation anywhere else. I just want to do it with some decorum and with some structure. That's all I'm asking.
Hold on. Vice Chair and then Board Member Mack.
No, I think one of the things that we mentioned that Mr. Johnson put that in there, I think Councilman Director Mack brought that issue up a year ago, whatever. He don't brought that to this board. This was the one thing that Johnson was here at the time when he did that. So that's where it comes from. That's where it originated from Director Mack. So he could elaborate on that.
Yeah, and if I can, I will. I am the one that actually brought this supermajority, and the reason I brought it is because of all the past conflicts we've had with different executive directors getting into position and actually just being tossed out as soon as they get in there by a different administration that gets in these particular seats. And I found it, quite frustrating. And like I said, I take everything that the citizens say very serious. And I have had some consideration with just doing a majority vote because I do take you guys, everything that you say to heart. And I'm actually one of the ones that actually sat on the board to make the charter, and I feel like that was a privilege also. And I don't want to see any tangling going on with it. But sometimes you have to make necessary moves to, I ain't gonna say protect a certain individual, but I think it's best practice if we go down the direction of, making sure that we're being sustainable with keeping an executive director, especially when they're doing the due diligence in terms of, just trying to move forward with doing things that's gonna be for the betterment of this community. And I know in the time that you're pivoting to do something positive, you're always getting slapped down. And I've been a part of that. And a couple of people sitting up here with me have been a part of it too, and seeing the experience that we've experienced in the past with having that done. And I think it's just, a disadvantage to us, the community, to continue going down this path. And I understand your frustration with not wanting supermajority vote, but I think it's necessary also, if you ask me personally. And like I said, not to undermine the citizens, because I take everything you guys say seriously. And that's how I make a lot of my conviction when I do vote, you know what I'm saying? Because I do take you guys, and, that's why we have public participation, where you guys been up, the voice of opinion. And I do take that intel and making my decision too. I can't lie about that. But in any event, that's why I brought it and presented it to the board. And I know it doesn't make a lot of sense if you're on the outside looking in, but if you understand the whole legality of everything that have taken place with this board, you know, with just everything that we've gone through, you know what I'm saying, not being able to develop. Think about it. You know, we got property and looking to buy our property, but we haven't did anything significant. You know what I'm saying? So, and I can recall asking one of our previous executive directors, name me 5 significant things you've done since sitting in the executive seat. He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. And I found that very puzzling, you know, but if I ask this executive director what he's done in trying to push the CRA to a different direction, I'm pretty sure he can name me a few things that he's trying to do that can be significant for the community. You know what I'm saying? I'm an advocate of trying to buy property that's gonna be contagious for us and our future, our kids, you know. Some things I agree with, some things I don't. And we're human beings, all of us up here have different opinions. We're gonna be able to, you know, disagree on some things, but we gotta be able to, you know, understand that you're gonna be in a position to make some tough decisions. That's why we sit here. We made the decisions for you guys, you know what I'm saying? And as a legislator, on the town side, that's what I'm always gonna do, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what I sworn to do, protect the town of Eatonville. But in any event, like I said though, that was my thought on doing the super majority vote to, I don't wanna say I don't wanna say protecting an individual, but just putting that person in a position to work comfortably without having to worry about walking on eggshells if they make a sudden move or whatever that maybe the next administration that's coming in 2026 don't like. You know what I'm saying? So let's not make it that easy for you to just toss an individual out, whether it's this individual or whoever it's gonna be. You know, we just wanna make it a lot easier for an executive director to sit in that seat and not worry about losing his job if, you know, a different administration coming here. So that's my take on that.
Board Member Daniels.
Board Member Mack said something important. He said he's here to protect the town of Eatonville. And I agree, but you shouldn't be able to, we're not here to protect the executive director. You say why? Because the plan of the CRA is already established. Anybody that falls within the parameters of that seat are able to look and see what can be done, paint, pave, and plant. Here is our historic fund. Here is our infill lot fund. So this super majority, I'm not in favor of because it's just what we're saying we're doing. We're trying to protect the executive director from with a different administration. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, following this plan, following the salary plan, there would be no problem. If you get rid of somebody, then it's got to be personal. The chair says she brought it the same way, saying that it's been turnaround, too much turnaround. But if the person is doing what they're supposed to do, following the CRA plan, there would be no need. There would be no need. I would never have a supermajority for our clerk. Our clerk is doing a fabulous job. I think our legal is doing a fabulous job. But when you look in the bylaws, it's not important to the bylaws because now you can say you can get rid of legal with a majority vote and not a super. I've always said if you're going to bring them in with a super, you can take them out with a super. If you're going to bring in the legal with a super majority, then you can take them out with a super majority. You can't, and I keep saying you can't change the game in the middle. I've been doing this for over 15 years. It's always been majority. Never had a super majority was in these 2017 bylaws, but you had a super majority when you were going to purchase property. The super majority then when you want to purchase property because it's a valuable asset you were about to purchase, and everybody needs to be on the same page. Never for an appointment of the executive director. It's a lot of things in these bylaws that I don't agree with. For instance, I already said supermajority, legal counsel, the executive director can make the recommendation to it must be ratified and confirmed by a majority vote to get rid of legal. I don't think that's right. If you're going to do a super for the executive, let's do a super for legal. We have all board members, which I was one of the champions of special meetings. that we should be able to call special meetings, but I feel like if we have something that staff can get for us, that not only does staff work for the executive director, but they work for us. If we put something in place, we can have the staff to get some information that we would need. Pretty much, it was like about 5 or 6 things, the advisory board. I was saying that some of the criteria to be a business person, if you're not, then guess what? Then let's make one of the criteria is that you live in the town limits 5 consecutive years, you're a homestead, you work in the financial industry, accounting, banking. So there's a lot of other avenues that we can choose people to be on the advisory board if we so choose to. If I want to just be on there myself, then, I would choose to do that. So, we have a lot of stuff that we can talk about, board member credit, that we can just limit it down to about 5 or 6. And, we can take care of this.
I just want to mention,
One moment,
If I may, I definitely respect your concerns, and I can recall having this same almost exact conversation how many years ago? Probably about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And with me, of course, champion to do the supermajority, but being a person in leadership, I do understand that I respect my constituents. I respect my colleagues, and anything that I feel like is going to be betterment for the community, especially my citizens. So I'm in favor of the supermajority, but I'm willing to do the majority vote if that's what this board wishes to do, because I know we've gone down that direction before, with us having a contract, having a full majority vote, which is, something that I suggested, and for good reasons, I think. But at the end of the day, I don't want us to be tangled up and working in a hostile environment that's going to conflict of us not getting things done in this community. And I think we're doing a sensational job right now in terms of the staff and everybody up here working together and trying to just kind of put our boots on the ground and do things that's going to be for the betterment of the community. So I'm willing and able to actually change my course on how I look at the supermajority vote and vote majority vote, because I think it'd be fair to this board and this community, especially with people voicing their opinion on how they feel about it, because I work for the people. I don't work for nobody up here. I work for the people that are getting up on this podium and expressing their concerns. And the only one that is advocating that people do come to the meeting, while you can't be involved and know what's going on in town business. And I can appreciate the people that do show up and do voice their opinion. And I think it's, out of respect that I follow suit and being mindful of what you guys are saying also. And I am. And like I said before, I'm willing to just do them instead of doing them super majority vote, just do the majority vote, because I know it's been best practice for the last, 20, 30, 40 years. So I definitely get it. And being one of the ones that actually sat on that charter board with, 4 other, incredible people that I had the opportunity to serve with. And we sat in here for 6 months and wrote that charter. And it wasn't an easy task. That nothing trumps the charter but the Florida statute. Let's get that understood. So I definitely want to move forward with doing the right thing for my community, who I serve, and I'm always going to protect. So that's my thoughts on that right there. And also, I overheard you saying something about the executive having the opportunity to get rid of the attorney. Um, um, and not trying to mind Executive Mr. Johnson, but I'm also in favor of this board being able to do that, and not just one individual. So, and that's just the all fairness of the attorney also, because I don't want him walking on eggshells, thinking that he can be terminated by anybody besides this board. So with this board being in a position, and we got 7 incredible people up here that serve this community as board and directors, and I served on the capacity of the town and the board. So my job is, to make sure that I'm protecting the peace and the community of Eatonville at all times, no matter what entity I'm sitting on, and I sit on both of them. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, those are my thoughts that I'm willing to make my changes on. And, before we move forward, making any, voting tonight, I just want to make that, known to the citizens that I work for, because I do work for the town of Eatonville, and I work for the citizens of Eatonville, the ones that voted me into the seat. And I want to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence at all times. I don't want to ever sit here and, slap you guys in the face by making bad decisions, because I got to make sure that I'm making the best educated decision moving forward. That's going to put us in a position to prosper and be successful. So that's my take on that.
Board Member Randolph.
Yes, I have one more question, concern. Have each of you on this board actually went through all of the articles for the last bylaws and the present proposed one that we're getting ready to further action on or not take care? I mean, have you really gone through that? And you're just looking at one or two items that appeals to you, did you go through and look at each one of those?
From the last set of three?
Wait a minute, I'm not finished yet, excuse me. Okay, one thing that you don't have in the new one, how are you going to dispose in the property? So if you don't have it in your bylaws and you want to dispose property, you're gonna run into some trouble. Because these bylaws, the other ones specify what to do. Dispose of property. You don't have it in your new bylaws. And I'm saying this again, correction. There's 28 articles, sections that are left out in the new bylaws. So when you get to a situation and trying to make a decision about something, you don't have it in your bylaws to do it. So if you don't have your bylaws to do it, attorney, what's next?
If it's not in the bylaws, then you would go to the statute to determine if it fits, and if it does not fit within the statute, then you have to figure out what to do next if it's not in your bylaws.
Okay, that's a very good answer, because these last bylaws are very specific. A person come in here, let's say a new person come in here, a new board member come in here, they really wouldn't know what to do. Because you got rid of all of your things that's telling you how to run this CRA according to your bylaws. You don't have that with this new one. So everybody will leave from here being dumbfounded or fold or whatever, and don't even know what to do. You see? So that's the reason why this is very, 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 very important. So I'm asking this board to reconsider this. We need to go to the table. If you want some of these things in here, it's fine, but we got to do it the right way. It's not one person's decision. It's going to drive this board.
I mean, my only thing in regards to the bylaws, I agree, you should have a special meeting concerning the bylaws, so that's a big issue among you there. Two, if we gonna tell the story, tell the whole story. Don't just tell bits and pieces. That's my whole thing. But cause there's been some things said among us, but you're not telling the whole story. Been up here multiple times, more than one occasion. Things start moving, new administration come in, get the legs chopped off. That's been our history. Only, like I always used to say, only time the dirt move in Eatonville is when the water line break. It shouldn't be that way. Okay, so some of us politicians, you've been up here for quite some time. Let's change that. So I mean, let's change that. So I mean, like I say, let's tell the whole story. Don't give people bits and pieces. All right, Mr. Daniel said personal. Now it was some personal thing that was going on. Things happen. We you all moved in a different direction. Got rid of the present executive director. Wasn't about no work performance. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it about work performance? I don't think so. All right. So like I said, if you're gonna tell the story, tell the whole story. If this community want to move, finally, let's move together. That's all. Let's just move together. All this, like I say, telling people what you wanna hear. Like I say, tell the whole story. There's a lot, there's a lot go on in this little town. And it shouldn't be that way. A town to be so small, we can't get nothing done.
One of the questions that you asked was pretty much for those that were for supermajority vote to explain their thinking. And I think I said it before, when we first started talking, this was before, Director Johnson came. No one up here that's talking except for Vice Chair can talk about being under investigation for stupidity. We've had 3 directors that were removed. And of those 3, only one was removed with cause. When Director Johnson was removed, it was without cause, but it was stated with cause. The resolution was a mess, number 1. So he was removed. If it was not for just having a simple majority vote, we could have avoided that. With that messed up motion. And what happened? It caused 2 people to go under investigation because we had to follow through with what the majority voted on. If just a supermajority was here at that time, we could have avoided that and we could have protected people from needless investigations. Because as I remind you, nothing was found at fault. So nothing was done wrong. We followed a resolution. If it was majority vote, we would have avoided all of that. So that's protection. That's protection for people who volunteer to do this work. It's protection for people that want to come and do the job right. So the supermajority vote is the only way we can stop with the foolishness. If a director comes in and that director is doing wrong, and you can state the reasons that someone should be removed, and those reasons are justifiable, then chances are you'll get a supermajority, you'll get a unanimous vote. But without that, there's no protection. Who will eventually want to come here and work for our town? Because it's foolishness. And that's all that was. So that would have been protection with that. The difference, and this is, I told you that I contacted the director to clarify my statement in the last meeting. Supermajority versus majority. The difference for the legal was, I think that there should be a head. By the way the CRA is set up, the director should run the show. If you have a supermajority for the director and a supermajority for the legal, in my heart of hearts, I feel that we can put ourselves right back in the same situation that we were in 2019, 2018, 2019. But what I did think was that the legal position should also be protected. And how I felt that should be protected, and this is what I was, if I didn't say it clear enough, this is what I was trying to say in the last meeting. Supermajority for the executive director because they're overall the staff. However, I was not comfortable with the director being able to just fire anyone, especially legal. So in order to get rid of, or then you can suggest, you can bring that to the board to suggest the termination of legal, but then that would be by majority vote of the board. Because I felt that if your justifications were strong enough, then you'll get a majority vote. But otherwise you wouldn't, because I do believe that legal, that position is just as important as the director, but there's always got to be a head. And I don't think that should stay on the same level. And that was my reason for making sure that was clarified. That's the only change you saw from the last meeting to now, I believe, for me.
Before you go, yeah, okay. Before you get it again, I've been waiting patiently. And raise my hand, and I want to let y'all get it out, but.
And I graduated from Winter Park.
I'm sore.
I didn't know we were in a group either. I graduated
for it. Director, Daniels, you were next.
I was, but.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm hearing this and this is good dialogue, but I still revert back to my original request that we put some method to this madness. We can pick out one or two. I mean, if we're being honest and we want to duke it out tonight, there is some things that we could talk about. I didn't feel the need to bring them to the executive director because I had my conviction about how I felt about the new bylaw. I was gonna vote tonight and I was gonna keep it pushing. But I'm open to a conversation. So I'm urging us to go back to trying to find a method if we can agree that we can go through this individually. However, since the supermajority is the topic of discussion right now, Chair Gardner, I would like to respond to your comment. So I thank you for the clarity. And then since we're giving our insight and our opinions about the supermajority, I'll tell you why I don't support the supermajority. I feel like the supermajority strongly undermines the majority. And I also hear and I also weigh in the concerns that you all have about protections of the agency, of the community, and of the position. And for me, it's not personal. I hear you, Director Williams, about some of the personal things that have taken place. Y'all know I'm the baby in this group. I have sat in both the audience and on the diocese to have these conversations, to be privy to these conversations. I have seen you all in your elements on Tuesday nights and your request to executive directors and your request to administration. I have seen levels of insubordination. I'm not here to duke it out tonight. That precedes my appointment to the board, right? Because I'm on this board now, like you said, when we did our hiring process, I'm ready to move forward. I'm not here to cook up any old beef. If it's expired, throw it out. If there's another side to the story, throw it out with the side that was put in. I'm ready to work. Like Director Daniel said, if the personnel that we elect, appoint, vote on is doing the job, there really shouldn't be a need for it. And I get that even if there is not a need, you might still have to do it. I get that. However, one thing I want to bring out is what are the hiring processes now that this position is supposed to be a town position? This is something we did through HR. It wasn't simply just, this is the person we want and we're going to go with it. Can somebody explain to me, is it something that we can do with just a vote? If there is something that's brought for cause, or if there isn't something that's brought for cause, what that procedure looks like, minus the supermajority, right? Can we talk about what the responsibilities are, what constitutes termination, cause for termination, why there was no cause, whatever the case? Can we clear that up? Because I think that should in turn lead us to whether or not this is necessary. And the reason that I'm asking that is because I was privy to some of the things that transpired in 2018, 2019. And I saw the result of that. I was privy to some of the things that happened in 2022 and the results of that. And it seems like in a couple of those situations, things came back unfounded even after the majority voted to go a certain direction. Then my next question, and I know I'm compiling everything, but the next topic of discussion would be, okay, what's to stop us from getting a supermajority and then getting 5 people to come back and do the same thing we're doing right now? To get 5 people to come back and say, oh, okay, we agree, let's just go ahead and do it. Or, hey, there's 5 of us now that don't like the supermajority. Let's go back and put it back how it was. What can we do as a board that will maintain some consistency and some stability in the processes and procedures that we have in place that remove the personal part? It might not be possible. Let's talk about it. What can we do right here and right now to say, okay, if we're going to talk about termination, A, B, C, and D need to occur, and then we can take it to a vote. If these things haven't occurred, leave the vote out of it. Allow these people to do their jobs, go to the director, go to the attorney, hash out whatever it is, whatever concerns that you have, and then we can come back and keep working. Because you're right. Every time y'all remove, let me rephrase that. Let me use the right pronouns. Every time we remove a director, every time we remove the attorney, we put the community a step back. We're not taking a step back as directors. We're taking a step back as a community. I don't want to necessarily get rid of Director Johnson and have to do the hiring process all over again. I don't want to go another year and a half with an administrator. I want a director. So yes, I am for protecting the position, not necessarily the person, no disrespect, but whoever sits in that seat, whoever sits in that position should in fact be protected. But again, and I'll keep bringing this up, it doesn't seem to be an issue with the vote itself. It seems to be an issue with the 7 of us. It seems to be an issue with we keep hearing personal, we keep hearing drama, old beef, etc. That seems to be not a policy or procedure thing. That seems to be a personal thing. That's the term we keep using. That's the term that keeps getting thrown out. What can we put in place that would protect this position without necessarily having to change the identity of the democracy? What can we put in place to put some safeguards? What safeguards can we put in place to say, okay, listen, like, I know you feel some type of way, but is he doing the job? Is she responding to your emails? Are they providing the things that you asked for? Are these criteria being met? If so, I understand your issues. That sounds like something you need to work out with the director versus bringing that to an elected body or an appointed body to make them make a decision that's going to set the community back. How do we know you use the word chance? There is no guarantee in that. There is no guarantee that 5 people will see it this way, or there is no guarantee that 5 people will see it the right way. What we know to be right. We don't have to have a play on words tonight. We know what the right is from the left. We know what the right is from the wrong. What safeguards can we put in place to ensure that we're doing the right thing and that we're keeping the people that are being effective in this agency in place? I haven't had any issues with Director Johnson getting me what I've asked for, maybe one. And we were able to have a conversation after the fact and to say, okay, this is what I understood, this is what I expected, this is why this happened the way that it did. We've been good ever since. Even with the things that I called and asked for, hey Mike, okay, well, I don't know about that, I'll get back to you on that. Or we're working on this, Attorney Jackson will reach out to you, etc. I don't have any professional issues at this point. But if 5 of y'all come in here and say, oh, okay, he's not doing his job, I'm gonna disagree, of course, but I'm gonna also wonder, well, what could have been put in place before we got to this point? So I feel like the supermajority does undermine majority, because what's the purpose of the majority if you need an extra vote? Majority is for. That's what the 51% plus is for. I'm not saying that it's not something that might be of use. And again, even if, and to y'all's point about if we're gonna do it for the director, we need to do it for the attorney. We need to do it for staff or however y'all want, whatever direction we want to go in as a board. But I'm seriously concerned about number one, the changing of the guards, because we can go right back to this. We can bring this right back up in 11 months. This can come right back up. I'm concerned about the changing of the guard. I'm also concerned about the undermining of the majority, because to the point of one of the public comments that was made, this is a democracy. We do sit here and bring the best out and try to vote and try to do something good for the community. It should be about that. That's why we come out every 2 years and vote. That's why we come to the board and ask y'all to appoint a member. Why we go to Orange County and ask them to appoint a member, because the democracy is the basis of everything that we're up here doing. So if we're gonna undermine that, then, I mean, I'm not saying take it back 140 years, but what else are we built on?
The supermajority vote would allow for more voices. And even though we don't keep going back, but we also have to learn. We have to learn from our mistakes, and we've made some huge mistakes. The supermajority vote kind of protects that. You know, it keeps it at bay. If you have a majority vote, then it kind of depends on how any election goes in this town. You know, it's not always, votes are not always built on what is best for the town. But if you have a supermajority vote, then your conversation needs to be to more than 4 on this board. It needs to be to 5. It needs to be to 6. It needs to be to 7. That's how every conversation should be. You should be talking to everyone, not just talking enough to get your vote and get out. You know, what you say should make sense and appeal to everyone on this board, because we all should be for this town. A supermajority vote in this town for this board, to me, is a necessity. It's not even a thought process for me. Because and maybe if you had gone through what I don't want you to. A supermajority vote can protect that. It protects us, you know, as well. Because I can say what I feel about that whole issue. But again, you said, how do we fix that? To me, that's democracy. That's even better than democracy, but it's protecting us against ourselves. And that's how I feel. Board member Randolph and then board member Daniels.
Okay, a couple of things. I took some notes on what was said previously. Chair, you had mentioned something which this conversation really doesn't have anything to do with it, but since you brought it up about the, you had mentioned about 2 people that were under investigation. Yes, that happened. But, and I'm going to reference what Director Williams said, is that we need to tell the whole story. Okay, tell the whole story. It wasn't so much of that, but we dealt with an illegal contract. Tell the whole story. You had an illegal contract. I'm not going to go into any specifics about it because it might take tomorrow before I get done. But that's basically what it was in the investigation. So we have put that on the pillow and we all have moved on past that. Okay. Now, Director Clinton had discussed what is it that we can do. One of the things that is really something that is puzzling. When you hire people, we have not set goals and objectives for our hirees. Now, the executive director has employees that you hired. He will set, unless you already have, goals and objectives for his or her employees. We as a board have not set goals. We let people come in here, they get hired here, and they just kind of do the rapid and do whatever they want to do. And then when things happen and things don't go the right way, we all say, oh, this and that and the other. Okay, but what goals and objectives have we set for the new director? We have not done that. What he is basing his job off of, his past experience, for what he has done before. But that doesn't really say specifically of those things that what we would like to see in our director. So we have to be proactive and set those goals and objectives of what we would like Mr. Johnson to do. That's the first thing. So he's already been employed now for like 3.5 months now. So where do we go from here? So we need to start from the beginning and not just take things on the hill, but I'm ready to, I want to do what is right. I want to do what's right. I have no animosity against anybody. What happened in the past, I was not even involved in that stuff going on way back in 2019, 18 or whatever. I don't even care about that. I don't care. What I care about is moving forward, put things in place, let's move on and let's do the right thing. We have to do the right thing. You have to go by right procedures. And I want to ask the attorney a question. How many agencies, CRAs, or cities or towns that you know of that has the supermajority here in Central Florida?
Right off bat, I don't know of any, but I have not done any specific research, but I have not heard of any CRAs that have supermajorities.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, attorney. I have done my research and I don't know of any. So why is it we here in Eatonville have to be so upside down and be different from everybody else? Why is that? Why we have to be so different from everybody else?
We are different.
I know we're different, but that's not really giving me a good answer. Why do we have to be on the oddball that we in Eatonville, we're just a unique people, we can't get it together, we can't work with each other, we don't get along with each other. What's the problem here? What's the problem here?
Go back through the minutes.
It is a problem here in Eatonville.
I go back through the minutes.
Why we cannot do what we supposed to do and be governed by rules and conduct. That's where we need to start. Eatonville.
I think that I'm surprised that executive director, he must be taking direction, I guess, from someone else, because what I have here is your contract. The contract, as a matter of fact, signed by, at that time, Boardman Washington was the chairman. And I think this is legal counsel Perry if you go to section 5, termination part, this agreement may be terminated without cause by the board of directors majority vote. And that's what I'm saying. This is your contract that you had previous when you came with us. And if we had a supermajority vote, then this part wouldn't even work. In the event that this agreement and the employee is terminated without cause, which the chairman said, the full payout of the remaining terms of this agreement shall be made to the employee to include benefits and severance. And what that says is that if we had fired or with a majority vote, terminated the executive director, he would got his full pay, which he did on this, but it did say supermajority. If it did, I think we probably wouldn't have paid out that, but it's in your agreement that the importance of the majority vote as executive director, and that's why I have a problem with the supermajority. Even you in your own agreement has said majority vote. You didn't say super.
Can I address something before you say?
You sure can.
Okay, first of all, let's get away from this misnomer that the executive director asked for some supermajority.
That's what's correct.
Let's get away from that.
Exactly.
Because that never came from me.
Right.
And when I got hired in December, I was presented with 3 sets of bylaws and directed by then Chairman Randolph to give a synopsis and put them all together. That was the supermajority bylaws, that was the existing bylaws, and that was a previous from somebody bylaws. So Mr. Johnson did what he was being directed to do. I'm gonna say this again 1,000 times. The bylaws have absolutely nothing to do with me or my staff. We're governed by the CRA policies and procedures, and we're governed by the town's policies and procedures. And they have everything from termination to taking vacation in those policies and procedures. And we have to comply with those. So let's move away from the discussion as if this is about the director, because the policies and procedures are what governs the employee's behavior. I am an employee, and that's what governs those behaviors. The board is expected to follow those policies and procedures in which they have adopted. That is the way it should be governed, not just for me, but for all employees. Okay? Thirdly, let's move away from this idea saying the charter is the governance of your responsibilities while you're sitting on this board. You're governed under chapter 163. Has nothing to do with the city charter. The term city charter is nowhere in chapter 163. So you accept the responsibility by being the board to work under that governance of that law. And one of the things in that law says you have to adopt bylaws. It didn't say the executive director. It said the board. All agencies have bylaws. So because when you're applying for funding and all that, they want to see your governance document, right? It's 2 things that provide your organizational chart and your bylaws. What you put on them makes no difference to me one way or the other. So let's be clear how we got here. Not because I just put that on the agenda for the board to address. I was asked to do this. Out of the 20 million things I got to do, I was asked to do this. And it's in your hands to decide what you're going to do and how you're going to govern yourselves accordingly. It is not for me. Now, the choice of putting the executive director in the bylaws, that was Director Mack's original thing way before Mike Johnson got here. Had nothing to do with me, had nothing to do about me. So let's be honest and let's be truthful about how this process got to here. This is not about me. And it's not being made about me. This is about respecting his recommendation of what he put together, what Ms. Randolph put together, and what the mayor had already had in place in 23 together. So the ball is in y'all court to decide how y'all gonna govern yourselves. It is required under chapter 163. The charter has absolutely nothing to do with chapter 163 of Florida statute. You're governed under 163 while you're sitting here.
being that we're rated by our legal. And it seemed like your not responsibility, but your insight would be like, this is a major thing. Let's not make it a major thing. Let's just keep it majority and we move on. And we express that to everyone and we keep on because we look to you and we look to you to help us with the guidance.
Understand. When I come on board, you had the chairman. He directed me to do what I did. Okay,
I got you.
all right. So now the new chairman says, this is what they want to see. It's for you guys to hash that out of the particulars of what's in that document. It's not for me. I just did what I was asked to do by the board.
Right, but you see the I guess the quarry we're having with the supermajority. Everything else we could work out. We could talk it out. But we lean on you and we lean on you for direction.
I'm gonna say this. Since you brought up the contract, and I'm gonna say this to you. Sir, with all due respect, that contract was adopted when some of you members wasn't even up here. Right? Wasn't here at all. That board decision is that board's decision. And regardless of who made the decision, once they approved that contract, when whoever got up here then, they were bound by those terms, no matter what. No matter what.
I got you.
Okay? And that contract can be amended, changed with the agreements, correct me if I'm wrong, of myself at that time or the board. Nobody never tried to change that contract.
And I guess it's with that, because we didn't know. And if you remember, Perry was here. I asked legal, have you reviewed this contract? And he said no. I asked the question. That's how I know, Mr. Johnson. He wasn't here. No, Perry was here. Yeah, and I know we're going, we just ended right now, but I asked that night because I had some issues. And he said no.
I can't attest
But the
what
board,
that legal counsel.
right, but the board, the majority voted that night, and that's how this contract was.
Well, understand, I can't attest to what Mr. Perry's legal recommendation is. But I can tell you, me and Mr. Jackson talk regularly about not just this, about everything the agency is doing. And am I correct, Mr. Jackson? You're aware of everything that's going on, aren't you, sir?
I believe.
And you provide your legal guidance to me because I seek it. Am I right, sir?
It has been a welcome change to work with an executive director, despite anything else, who contacts me and who runs things by me. It is a welcome change.
Yes, for the sake of the meeting, I think I would like to piggyback on what Director Creighton said in terms of the method that we need to go down the direction of, and also direct Chairman of making it a special meeting while we can go, item by item, like we do the budget. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna dot your I's and cross your T's. You're gonna have a magnifying glass, expecting and looking at everything. And if you agree, you agree. If you don't, you don't. Right? So I think that's gonna be the most simpler thing to do, opposed to sitting up here going back and forth, because that's exactly what we're doing. And this is great dialogue. We understand that because everybody had an opportunity to present what it is that they didn't like, but we get up here and say we got an issue with it. But you had an opportunity to reach out to Director Johnson. A lot of us did, and some didn't. Now, we're in a position now to make a decision on this, but instead of getting back, last on what we're gonna do. We already know what we're gonna do. This, I know what I said last time I sat up here. We're gonna do the same thing. I said that. We're gonna be in the same position we was last month. And we are right here again. So I think right now what we need to do is probably for the sake of this not, failing or passing, table it perhaps, or go into a special session and just get everything completely done. Rather it take a month or two, or how long it takes. I think that's the direction we need to go in instead of sitting up here, because if we sit here and don't pass it, there's gonna be some people upset and there's gonna be some people, not upset. So I think for the sake of the meeting and time, we need to go ahead and table this item and go ahead and make a special session for this, while we can sit down and do the right thing. Like I hear a lot of people saying, instead of sitting here going back and forth like we are now, I made my decision and I explained to you why I made my decision. Now, if we wanna make some changes, let's do that, and I'm willing to do that, you know what I'm saying? I think I'm probably the most transparent person up here in terms of just wanting to do things accordingly, you know what I'm saying? Instead of just going all the way to the left, I don't wanna do that either, I just wanna do what's gonna make sense and make the best educated decision for the town, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not about us really, it's about the people that we serve and work for. So, my suggestion would be tabling this item and call for a special meeting. That would be that way we can just, cut it dry right there.
Board member Britton.
I was gonna concur with Director Mack. We have had a number of special meetings in the last 3 months. So it's not like, it's not important enough for us to go ahead and get a special meeting called. I think that it's worth it, and for the sake of resolving this, I concur with Director Mack.
Board member Williams, I just had a question for you. Is that what you alluded? So that's 3. Is there,
You got a question?
yes,
What bylaws were under now? So you got 3 of them in your hand. Which one?
2023. July.
2023. July of 2020.
so if we're gonna do a special meeting, can we go ahead and schedule it now?
Yes. Oh, yes on that.
Whatever date.
Because we having dates next week? Or whatever.
Next week's good for me also.
Next week is the 4th week of the month, so that means that Monday would be the stakeholder meeting. There's no council meeting Tuesday.
Tuesday works for me.
Tuesday work for everybody? I think that's Ms. King, y'all. Let me reel it again. I don't wanna be part of it.
I'm at the will of the board.
No, the board members, another 25th is available, 5:30? Is that
Yeah, that's fine.
5:30?
5:30.
Special session or special workshop?
We wanna make sure this is the only item that we're gonna be addressing, nothing else.
It will be a workshop.
Yeah,
We'll
and
go
then
on
it'll probably be the discussion,
sections.
and then we'll have a decision.
On the next board. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. I'm good. Workshop and then finalize it at the next.
So Tuesday would just be a workshop for the bylaws.
For the sake of the order of the meeting, item number 6
We're going to,
was, to approve the
Table.
bylaws, but we can make a motion to table it.
right, so motion,
So move.
second.
it's been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, that item has been tabled. We're now moving on to approval of resolution CRA R 2025-16. Would you please read the preamble?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution CRA-R 2025-16, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Town of Eatonville Community Redevelopment Agency, TOCRA, Board of Directors authorizing the purchase of property located at 140 Southwest Eatonville, Florida 32751, providing for conflict, severability, and an effective date.
All right, you've heard the preamble. Is there a motion?
Second question.
It's been moved and seconded. Question.
Okay, the questions is, this right here. I know, I had an opportunity to speak with, Mr. Johnson concerning this particular matter right here, and I think, it's an important matter. And he kind of broke it down to me exactly how, this purchase will, actually go into effect if we, decide to, go forward with purchasing it. But, I, stand on, at this particular time, only because I, have respect for my colleagues, because I know in the Tuesday meeting, and this has nothing to do with the town, but it's a whole different entity, but it has to go through the town in order to come to this board. And with that being said, I would, in good, how could I say this, just being a sport about it, to, table this item until, the, board members that had an issue with moving forward with this on Tuesday night, and I apologize for not giving you guys that, opportunity, because I should have tabled the item during that time. And I'm willing to table it now to get a better, understanding and why everybody else can get a better understanding of how we're gonna deal with this matter. And also, Mr. Johnson, I would definitely like for us to get a, appraisal before moving forward with it, even though I know within the boundaries of what you told me, that it'll come, you know, in the effect of us getting a, appraisal of it. I'm not comfortable with that. I can understand, say that. So I feel a lot more comfortable if I see some number first. So if I see the exact number that we're dealing with in terms of, what this property is gonna be appraised for, I feel a lot better. And then I know we also spoke about, the rendering that, went along with this particular property too, which would be evaporated and done with. We don't need to move forward with doing anything consistent of a culture center, because I've already, spoke my spiel on that also, on where I thought it should go at, and where I still think it should go at, and that's down, at Denton Johnson. And we can appropriate some money perhaps by getting grants that I think we're willing to, push forward again. I think it'll be, more not better idea to do it that way also. And I don't know the time frame of that, but, I definitely want to make, the most of the, taxpayers' money by, you know, making, great educated decisions by, doing things, in a, you know, civil manner that is gonna be, recognized for everybody. To know that we're doing everything in our power to do the right thing and for the betterment of the community. So, if I could get the appraiser on this property before moving forward, now that would probably consist of us, tabling this item. I don't wanna, you know, sit here and vote on it tonight, and for the sake of a failing, and then we have to come back to square one. I don't wanna do that. So for the sake of that, if this board recommend that we table this item until we can get the exact appraisal, cause that's just my take on it. I would rather have, and I know that probably consists of probably about another 2-3 weeks. Of course, it's gonna cost us money to do it, which is not, you know, I think it's a great investment if we do it, because we know what we're dealing with, you know what I'm saying? And, that's gonna be, just out of respect of my colleagues too, because I know it was just something that was thrown at us, not me in particular, because I had the opportunity to meet with you, but the ones that didn't, it was laying on his desk and they had no idea. And just in all fairness to them and the, citizens of this community, I think it's gonna be in our best wishes to, table this item until we can get the appraisal of, what this particular, building is gonna, look like. So that's where I'm at with that.
Vice Chair.
Go ahead, Ms. Long.
Okay, yes, I agree that, this is suitable, to be tabled. I had mentioned the other night about the appraisal, and you stated that, Director, that could not be done until we get a contract. But you can't, there is an appraisal, there's some type of appraisal that can be done on that facility.
You know, comparative market analysis, which is done not by a appraiser, but by a real estate broker. Or you can hire someone to do what they call a pencil appraisal. But if you want the appraisal, direct match correct, comes with the cost. Of a certain cost. So.
And what would the exact cost of that?
But
would that be something that you can do yourself, or would we have to approve for you?
the cost exceeds a total of 7,500, that exceeds me and the materials authority, they would have to come back to do it.
I think, well, with me, like, just speaking out loud about the whole situation, and correct me if I'm wrong. According to,
Excuse me one second, it was my.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
My conversation.
I
Thank
do
you.
apologize.
Yeah, we'll yield to you. Thank you very much. Yeah, but anyway, the tax assessed value. I know a lot of people don't pay attention to that, but I know I do. If I need to buy a piece of property, I don't know what the tax assessed value. It is an indication. It may not be accurate, but I think it's like $490 something thousand, round about that ballpark. Okay, so I wanted to know why $650,000. Why can't we are the buyers. Why can't we negotiate for a lower price? We have the authority. The property over there, 339, we went ahead and paid that. We didn't try to do no kind of bargaining whatsoever that I'm aware of. It was not presented. I don't know if the gentleman could do it or not. But you did? Okay. What did it sell for?
He's originally, that's the 420,000. We got it down.
Right, I have my question mark about that. But the 550, we're looking at over $500,000 for that piece of property. And then we look at the other property, this is like $1 million that we're spending the taxpayers' money. We have to make sure that what we're spending this money on is something that is going to be beneficial to our community. I walked over there the other day, looked at that building. It basically has virtually no parking. Okay, so the building needs a lot of work. Gonna have to put a roof. No telling other some work that has to be done there. You're looking at maybe like $1 million with the price that you pay for that at $650 and having to renovate that building to bring it up to code where it needs to be. And not only that, but any other improvements besides what's already there. So I know that we need to spend money. I realize that. But my issue also is that we haven't done enough here in Eatonville to help our Eatonville residents with the CRA money. We have a company that's doing the housing. They're gonna do 25. What about the other 25 people that maybe 50 people probably put in for an application or something to have something done in their homes? What are we gonna do? I mean, we haven't done anything. We haven't done anything that I'm aware of to help our people. So we have all this money, and I know we need to spend this money. And I'm in favor of spending money, but spending money in the right way. We have sidewalks that needs to be repaired. We got potholes in the road that needs to be fixed. People cars are getting run down and in bad need of repair. I got a black mark right there on my street that's been there for months. I brought it up several times and nothing has been done about it. We got other issues that we can work in the town that we can spend money on to improve our neighborhoods. But I don't see that being done. Okay, so moving back to this. What about checking out any funds from the county or the CDBG to see if we can get some funds for that? Director Matt just mentioned something about getting some extra funds. It's all kind of things that we can look at. So that's where I am, but I am in favor of to table this, and then we need to come and do a workshop and get all this straightened out. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, I want this board to understand something that's very simple. That is the number that's on the contract. The board wanted to change that number. You have the preview right now to change that number to whatever number you want. When the administration go back, you negotiate with the seller. The seller starts at one number, we come in at a lower number. That number you see is the number that met in the middle of that negotiation. And if the board is not satisfied with that number, you have the authority to change it now. Now, I do want to go back and address something you said. The citizens. I don't want to give the impression we're not addressing citizen needs. And seemed to me when you made that statement, it was implying that. We have 3 grant programs for Orange County, one for major rehab, one for minor rehab, code compliance, and a new program that's addressing Hurricane Ian, hurricane damage. They're going to be here Saturday, doing live applications for our residents. Help CDC is going to be here with Rebuild Together. They're doing 2, from what I was understanding, 2 rounds of 25 at a time, which they did the presentation to y'all as the town council, and building a waiting list for the next round of that. Duke Energy, through the town, has already started doing all of their helps for people who ask for it already. The Council for Aging manages all of Orange County's weatherization dollars. That is the agency you have to go through to get assistance for weatherization. They're gonna, I'm not sure if they're gonna be here or not, but we have their information that's gonna be here for residents to take advantage of it on Saturday. And we have done a diligent job of getting those flyers out in the community so people can know what is expected when they come here on Saturday, right? And they can access that information prior to Saturday. They don't have to wait till Saturday. They can go to these different service providers and start their process now. They don't have to wait till Saturday. And if they don't make it on Saturday, they can go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and therefore until the money runs out from those agencies. So I don't want to give the impression that you have to take CRA dollars to create programs that's already being provided by service providers in the community. The problem has always been we have never been able to get those folks together to come to our community to explain their services and provide their services. Now we're doing that. The government job ain't always to fix everybody's problem, especially when you have agencies out there providing those services. And it's a matter of providing access to those services. So we're bringing Moses to the mountain here by making all of them come sit in an environment to receive services. A lot of them, and not just one. You can get in every line until you're tired and get applied, get funding and help for your home. So let's not create the scenario that we're not doing anything. We're doing a whole lot. It's not always about us doing everything. And we have to learn how to use the resources that are there and made available and just make sure our people know that these services are available to them. And we're bringing Moses to the mountain and bringing them here on Saturday, and everybody can address that. As far as the contract, this contract is being offered by you. Whether you table it or not is irrelevant to me. I'm gonna keep moving on the 7 other things I'm working on, regardless of what this board does tonight, okay? But if the price is the problem, and I had to share this analogy with somebody today who called me. When you go out and build a house and you say, I want $400,000 for that house, you go to contract and that person says, my contract is subject to the appraisal, right? So if the appraisal comes in at 300, then I'm telling you up front, we're not paying no more than what it appraised for. Now, that leaves the seller the opportunity to say, you know what, kick rocks, I'm gonna go deal with somebody else. Or he says, I'm gonna play in that ball game at that price with you. But it is not, and I understand what you're requesting. It is not heard of to go out and appraise for something until you have it tied up in a contract before you do that. It makes no sense to spend money to do an appraisal when that is part of the process in due diligence in which you seek.
And which
Okay? So when you ask me to do an appraisal, I'm just being factual of how the real estate transaction process happens. There's an appraisal order and there's a survey order. We have not gotten to that point because we don't have a signed executed contract. And by the way, even if this board approved that contract as it's written today, that's no guarantee that that seller is gonna sign that contract. Right? There's no guarantee that he signed a letter of intent, but that does not mean Mr. Carney, because that's the guy who owns it, name who's gonna sign that contract. He's signing it and acknowledging it is subject to the appraisal if he signs it. So that appraisal has to be ordered by the title company, not me. Ordered by the title company, and Ms. Clinton can tell you she worked in that business. That's how that goes. They order the appraisal, they order the survey. And once they get that information back, it is provided to me. And just like I did with the previous transaction, I make sure you have it to review. And if there's an issue at that time, the board can always reconvene and say, hey, pump the brakes, we ain't doing this, or don't move forward. The authority has always been into the board. The authority is not into me. I'm just the vehicle in which to make the process go the way it's intended to go. You can change that number tonight. I wouldn't advise it. Because you want him to sign it, so you can get a good look. Do your due diligence period at what the valuation of that property really is. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
And so to do that on the front side is almost, because that, I want you to know something. That appraisal becomes public record and can be used for somebody else to use to overtake what you're trying to do. You get what I'm saying? So when it's in the transactional process, it's not public record until the transaction is completed.
I understand perfectly. And like I said, though, whether we get the property or not, who cares? At the end of the day,
Right.
my whole thing, when I look at the dollar amount, and I know this amount that's on here is not gonna be appraised for that amount.
We both know that.
Because we'll all be fools.
We both know that.
To purchase that for that amount.
We both.
My reason for doing what I did the other night is to make sure that we got the funds and a line item that will make sense for us to purchase whenever we do come to the conclusion of, making this happen. But my reason for doing what I want to do is because of, the ones that wasn't really prepared to really make that decision on, what we had in front of us, because I knew about it because I had an opportunity to speak with you, but the one that didn't know about it. And then boom, here we go. Which you had nothing to do with, basically, you know what I'm saying? Because it was a town issue that we had to make sure that we pushed forward with passing, which it did, right? So in any event, this particular thing right here, I'm moving forward and suggesting that we table it while we can all have a better understanding. And I know it probably consists of, spending some money, but like I told you before, it'll be an investment. In order to make money, you gotta spend money, right? That's how it goes, right? We run a business here. We don't sit here and just want people to just give it to us.
Right.
It takes money to do things that's gonna be sustainable for you to push forward with purchasing stuff, especially something like this right here. When he tossed the numbers out, the original number was 750.
800.
That's absurd.
It was 800.
For us to sit here and even consider ever purchasing a building or any property.
So
for that amount of money. So that's why I'm an advocate of, moving forward with tabling this item while we can really digest it and understand the significance of what we're dealing with versus sitting here just jumping in the fire. We got to hold his foot to the fire by even trying to charge us the amount of money. But also, if we get the appraisal, it's going to be right there in front of us. And regardless of anybody else look at it and it's public, who cares? Whoever is able to buy the property. You understand me? So there's been a lot of property we don't miss out on opportunities to buy. Plenty. So with that being said, I'm definitely in favor of tabling this item because I don't want to fail for the sake of this meeting. I don't, I would rather us table it versus, voting it up or down tonight. So what's that?
Board Member Randall.
Okay. I just have one request, two things I want to mention. Is there any way that we can look at the building? But I don't believe in buying anything unless I go look at it first. Can we do that? Can you set up a day that we can go over and look at the
I will
building?
reach out to Mr. Carney and set up that time.
Oh, okay. Next is where the money's gonna come from. And then the other issue that I need is that I would like to know, the last time we, as a board, gave you the authority to own the other property. We need to do the same for this property to make sure since we all say that we want to do things the right way, let's do that the right way.
And that's what
We
that
need the resolution,
Right.
giving you the authority to negotiate this like we did previous. I believe that's what we did, right? What did we do?
You gave me the authority to reach out to the correct property owner and negotiate a LOI,
Okay,
a letter of intent. And that LOI was executed. Am I correct, attorney?
was it? Okay.
So once we did the LOI, then we moved to the resolution along with the contract.
Okay,
And then the board approved the resolution and the contract to be submitted at what was how it was presented. Then we went to closing and to get it done after all of the due diligence.
Mhm.
the need searches and everything that had to be taken care of, closing documents. And the attorney right there holding my hand through the whole process.
All the stipulations with it fulfilled,
Yes.
because the actual people that lived in the home was out the whole time.
Vice Chair Dan Williams, are you finished?
Yeah, that's all. And then my plan.
On this property here, I mean, it's kind of, sad that, that this probably ever been out of the town hands. Cause we owned some of this property back in the day. This was the full tennis court. This was where I hung out at. This was my play pen, whatever you wanna call it, tennis, everything. Before Miss Spinning House was built there, we had trees in there. We climbed those trees. That was the area where we played, all us in the neighborhood. But my main thing is how we let this get from us. I mean, back in the past, because like I said, where that basketball court is, that was a full tennis court. They cut that off and made a half basketball court to build a development center for the town citizens for like 4C food stamps, gave out cheese, all that stuff back in the past. That's what that little building on the side of that court was used for back in my days. So that was owned by the town of Eatonville, no one else. So how somebody got that from us back then, we was slick. That board, our forefathers was slick. And the daycare, like the mayor said, the daycare was part of the town too. It was Eatonville daycare. I went there. I went to that. His mom was, my teacher was, Miss Lovely was one of the teachers. So that was the town property at one point in time. Somebody just swindled us again to take our property. And now we're trying to fight to get it back. We're trying to get it back. So my thing is, I mean, I would love to have that property in town for the town, but it's gonna take a cost now. We're gonna have to pay for it to get it back. But we had it and someone else had it. But that's where it's history there, because like I said, you know, a lot of us went to daycare. And that's what our everyday hangout was when we got out of school. So we need to look into that. Like I said, we want to table, but we definitely need to get this property in the town of That's all.
My only question, I guess, since the property has been vacant for quite some time, if I'm not mistaken, the town code, it loses conforming use, which it was a daycare at one time. It goes to, I guess, some kind of other code, I guess, is it
Right.
residential, whatever, so the appraisal be based on residential piece.
And the appraisal is not gonna be done based upon the commercial use. The appraisal is gonna be done based upon the zoning, which is R2. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
I already know the appraisal is not gonna come at that figure, and we're gonna be at a negotiated amount based upon that appraisal. That's why we put in the contract, subject to appraisal. The other thing is to speak to Vice Mayor Washington. And me and the mayor had this conversation today, and she can elaborate if she wants to. The history of that property and being asleep at the wheel cost the town money when it was so simplistic as having the legal counsel record a simple deed that never got recorded. Am I correct? So that is the history of that property. It was the town's property, but the town did not carry out those things they're supposed to do done to put it in the public record. So that's why the transaction on the sale was able to go through, because there were no public documents there that protected the town's interests. That's what was recorded. So understand, I'm following the will of the board. The board wants the property. I'm gonna do everything I can do to accomplish what the board wants to happen. The board don't want the property. That's fine with me too. I got 7 other things to work on that I'm bringing to the, and mainly the plan update, which is more important than anything. Okay, so there's other things to do. We're putting safeguards in place to make sure we're not overpaying for something. And that's exactly why I put in the subject to the appraisal. If the board wants me to go out and do the appraisal, Just give us the authority. If it exceeds the amount, I have no problem. Give me that authority to go over whatever the three bids are gonna say to take care of whatever needs to be done. I don't have a problem doing that on the front side. Don't have a problem at all. I agree. If you want to table it, that's fine. The longer we wait, because Mr. Carney has told me there has been several inquiries. He's just comfortable with working with the government, because that's a sure thing. So that's fine. And we don't go to contract tonight or next 2 weeks or next month. That's your decision, not mine.
A couple questions, Director Johnson, you can probably answer some of these for me. So we keep talking about the appraisal. Can you verify that if the appraisal comes back to whatever it is, the max that we are authorized to spend on it is 15% above the appraised value?
That is statutorily.
Okay.
Correct term.
That's sort
Okay, so that's one. My second question is, if this resolution is approved, we are giving you the authority to move forward with acquiring the property based off the terms and conditions of the contract, including the movement of the earnest money deposit.
Right.
Can you verify where that will come from?
It will come out of the general fund operating funds of the principal.
General fund, okay.
Anything that's not restricted or salaries is general.
Can you also verify that once that property is appraised and we have come to an agreement through negotiations with the seller, whether or not that conversation is a conversation for the board?
I will, as I did in the last transaction, provide the, as soon as I got it, you got it. And if somebody wanted to call a meeting and did not agree, even though that appraisal came in over what we were paying, I anticipate this one to be a lot less. I'm looking, that's why subject to the appraised value. So whatever that appraisal says, that is what the contract amount will reflect is gonna be, period. Outside of the 15% allowance, correct, attorney? That we're allowed to go over.
So the reason that I'm asking that is because I know that there was some confusion amongst the board about the fact that we were able to move through with closing on the last property. So I just want to clarify that this resolution gives the authority to do whatever steps is necessary to acquire this property. My ask would be that we do another budget amendment so that we don't run into this issue. I know you were saying that it was important to have money where it needed to be. And then I also saw in that budget amendment that you retitled that line item, so there was no confusion about what that line item was for.
I was trying to do right.
Okay, can we run that back? Can we run that back just for the sake of?
If your peers say do budget amendment, so be it.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I would also, that's all my questions. I would like to make a statement. According to chapter 163 of the Florida statutes, specifically 163.370, anywhere from sub point 1 all the way down to about 8. It talks in detail about how we have these powers as this agency to acquire property for the purpose of eliminating slum and blight. If there is no other example of slum and blight in this community, it is 140 West Street. I'm saying that in consideration to a public participation comment as well, because even though we know that that property is slummed and blight, what we do after the acquisition is also just as important. And I've been approached by a number of Elizabeth Street residents that were made aware of this conversation about what happens after we acquire it. And I'm saying that because I know you often say to this board, I'm presenting the information, you have the authority to do what you will. A rendering is just that, a very pretty drawing. We have the authority as a board to go back and say, well, maybe let's go back and get it rezoned. Let's take it back to the Eatonville kindergarten daycare. I have 2-year-olds that are at Harper right now. Maybe they would be better suited at the new Eatonville kindergarten day nursery. Maybe, maybe not. But I think that instead of us getting caught up on what happens after the fact, we should talk about whether or not we want to acquire the property. I also agree that because we, as you all have stated, been caught slipping at the wheel, been caught asleep at the wheel, that this is an opportunity for us to say, well, we will control the fate and the destiny of some of these properties in the community. So I am not opposed to the acquisition of the property. Period. End of sentence. Nothing to add to that. However, I will say that I would like to see that we have some community engagement and some community insight and some community perspective as to what they might like to see over there. I can't imagine that, and I saw the renderings, and I'm not in favor or opposed to them specifically about what kind of building gets constructed there, whatever the case is. What really caught my attention in Tuesday's council meeting was the parking. And the reason that caught my attention is because I know that those handful of houses over there, they face that. The Denton Johnson Center is different because it's on a corner and it's backed up by green space. This is smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood, even though we know the pool is right there and we get a little bit of traffic right there off of West Street to the pool. We know that the tennis courts are right there. We still have active use in those tennis courts. It would generate, in my personal opinion, a little bit of traffic in that area. As a resident of Eaton Street, I know what it's like to have traffic disturbed by something that might be going on in the town. For example, the Zora Festival or the MLK Parade, when those streets get shut down, how that traffic can affect my everyday operations. So I would hate to be inconsiderate to those residents over there about what gets put over there. But I think it's important for us to remember that regardless of how many properties we acquire, we still have a responsibility to eliminate blight and slump. And we have an opportunity to do that right here by making sure that we have control over the property. And I think that that's important because we here, and I know as elected officials, y'all have heard it. And as a business owner in this community, Director Williams, I know you've heard it. We don't want to be the next Winter Park. We are in fear of gentrification. Well, let's talk about with gentrification. Let's talk about being able to do something from the inside out. We have an opportunity to do that here. I'm not saying let's not table it. If there's an opportunity, I saw the dates in the contract, I saw the clothing. I know we'll have another meeting by the time this comes around. If we need to have another special meeting, I'm not opposed to that either. I just think it's really important that we get a handle on the opportunity to do something about this amongst ourselves. The Chair Gardner brought this to us a little over a year ago, maybe a little bit further back than that, maybe a year and a half ago. We had a conversation about it. We had a resident that came in and said, there's somebody who operated out of that building for years. We feel like y'all went behind our backs. And the conversation was, that wasn't the intent. We had an opportunity to do something about it. We can do something about it. Even if that business owner wanted to come back and say, well, then now that the town owns it, I'm maybe in a more favorable position to do something about it. But to continuously let people from the outside come in, and I'm very selective with my words because a friend of Eatonville is a friend of Eatonville, to continue to allow the opportunity for people not from this community to come in and buy up all of this community and to just sit back and say, well, it is what it is. No, it's not what it is. It is not. I had the opportunity to go buy a house anywhere in Central Florida. I bought my father's house because I wanted to be here in Eatonville and because I didn't want nobody else to buy it. I grew up in that house. I wanted my children to grow up in that house. So I did something about it. As a matter of fact, I got a good deal on it because of where it is, because of what I had done, because of what my father had done prior to me. So if we are setting the community up for the future, now is the time to do something about that. And I encourage y'all to consider that when y'all make y'all decision about the acquisition of this property. I ain't asking about nothing else, only the acquisition. That's all I have.
I don't think it's a thought of us not wanting to get an acquisition of any property. If we could buy every property in Eatonville, we would.
Absolutely.
I promise you that. But my concern is this right here. And I know from what Mr. Johnson has, stated in terms of the process of how the matter is going to be, a lot of people ain't understanding that language. You know what I'm saying? It's a different rhetoric when other people on the outside, which are the citizens looking at this meeting, it's like, what is he talking about? We got to make it make sense to the people also. You know what I'm saying? Even though we're having a great understanding of what's going on and how it's going to be processed, we got to make it make sense. at the end of the day, right? Not saying that we don't want to buy this property because we do. My thought is to get the appraisal first, which I think would just be logically the best thing to do, even if it costs us a couple of $1,000s. Well, listen, we're in the business of spending money to make money. You know what I'm saying? So on behalf of this property, because you gotta think, the property was originally sold for $330. And you talking about 800,000? I ain't in the business of trying to make nobody rich either. You know what I'm saying? Especially for our taxpayers' money. I'm not. But I will say this, if we can, with the support of this board, table this item, because if we're in a position of not tabling this item, I'm recommending that I go back to the town side and reset my vote on what I originally voted for anyway. That's my position right now. So and I don't want to sit here and, sit on my hands and not do nothing about it, but I think it'd be in our best interest and making the best educated decision to get an appraisal first and then move forward with gaining acquisitions by purchasing this particular building that I think we could definitely benefit off. You know what I'm saying? By doing whatever it is, even though it's been rezoned or whatever, we can do whatever it is that is zoned for, or even possibly change the zoning. So, that's my thought on that right now, man. So if I could put a motion, or you can put a motion on the floor to table this item with the recommendation of this board to, seek whatever amount of money that you need to.
I mean, I'm not for tabling.
Well,
And we're in the middle of a motion. We're in the middle of a motion, and I'm not for tabling. I think we should. I sounded the alarm on this property in 2019.
But like I said,
and some of the people on this board were sitting here. I was doing my newsletters. I went to every house with that warning. And no one, that's when we should have been screaming. That's historical property right there.
We understand that. We're not saying that we don't want it. We're not saying that.
But I'm speaking for me.
And I'm speaking for me.
But let me finish.
But I'm speaking when you.
I'm sorry, then go ahead.
But I'm just saying though.
But I'll tell you.
And I'm not trying to be disrespectful because I'm not a disrespectful person, but when I'm sitting here making my spiel on how I feel about a certain thing, just like you just stated, this is how you feel about it. Listen, we're all subject to have our own disagreements on how we feel about things. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to agree with everything you agree with. I'm just not. And there's some things that I have agreed with that you agree with. That's just how it goes. That's what you call governing and making decisions, tough decisions up here. And we all got tough decisions up here. But my suggestion, just me, you don't think the way I think. Me, if we could get the appraisal first, which I think would be the most sensible thing to do, while people on the outside, the public people, could make thoughts on how they look at it. You know what I'm saying? Versus sitting here making uneducated decisions and then, it come back to bite you. And I know you said and you stated, let me say this right here, that this guy is somewhat in a position to sell it to somebody else. Okay, listen, the building been sitting there for over 3 years. He's been trying to sell. He ain't sold it yet. We're probably the only ones that are probably looking to sell it. Buy it or purchase it. But if we aren't, okay, I don't know anybody, and I just gotta say this, that will be willing to sacrifice $800,000. I don't care how historic it is. That was the original asking price, right? And then it dropped down to $750, and now we're at $650, which is still a significant amount of money. And I know for a fact, just not working into real, I'm not a broker, I don't work in that field, but I know just thinking logically, and God gave me common sense to know that even when the appraisal come back, it ain't gonna be no $650. I can almost guarantee you that. I know, but I understand that.
They'll give us the first opportunity.
Yeah, give us the first opportunity without.
To compete. It'll give us the first opportunity.
It's not public record. So I just sorry, because based on what Ms. said, if we go out and give an appraisal right now, others see it and can go in and beat us to the top, so to speak. So if we're not, I'm like you, I'm not trying to spend no 650, whatever place on that piece of property. You know what I mean? But I would say at least do the due diligence of, getting on the contract, then we can do our legal work.
And if I can say this, just,
So
just.
the appraiser come back at 350, that's what we offer.
Of course, but if I can add this to it, now, just hypothetically speaking, let's say it come back at 650.
Well, please
What's up?
stop.
Yeah.
We're gonna have the conversation.
Yeah.
But
If
if
it's
it,
taking too long, please,
just say it comes back at 650 appraised, this is the appraised price. And I ain't even say 650, say 600. We stop.
No.
He said it about it.
We can terminate that contract.
Yeah.
During our due diligence period at any time. Not appealing. Read the contract. Read the terms of the contract.
I'm not in favor of doing any contract until I see the appraisal. Listen, and if you wanna vote yes or no on it, I'm voting no on it. I'm voting down on it. I don't know how anybody else gonna vote on it. It's a hard no for me, because I feel like if we're gonna do it, like Director Randolph say, do it right. You know what I'm saying? And I know this is the way that you've designed it and the way that it's formatted or what have you, but I don't wanna do it that way. And like you said, you work at the will of the board. You know what I'm saying? And I respect that. And like I said, you work at the will of the board and I work for the people. And I'm saying me. And if it fails, for the sake of me voting no on it, there you have it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got their own conviction. Everybody's gonna vote anyway. So you said it's a motion on the floor. You don't want to move forward with doing the tabling. Go for it. Do what you gotta do.
That's not the issue, guys. You gotta move the motion. If it fails, then you push your motion up. That's how that works, okay?
that's all.
Not saying you going the wrong way. If this motion fail, you can put the motion on the table.
But with the table, if it's failed.
Well, why even go through that process when I'm sitting here actually licking the table?
Madam Chair,
We might as well
Madam
just
Chair.
finish the vote.
Madam Chair. How much time period, if I did a pencil appraisal done, would that be sufficient instead of waiting for a long period of time?
Listen, not for the sake of me. It's for the sake of the citizens of Eatonville and seeing that appraisal. You know what I'm saying? It's the people of Eatonville that need to see the appraisal. Listen, I want to see the appraisal also, but I want the people to understand what we're up against. You know what I'm saying? And I understand the process and what you're saying, and we're not obligated or liable to purchase or what have you. I understand that. And then for the sake of it becoming public, we're in the public meeting now. So who cares if it becomes public? You know what I'm saying? If the man is gonna sell it, whoever the buyer, the owner is, he's gonna sell it, whether it's to us or whomever. So if they outbid us, there you have it. You know what I'm saying? Not that I want to lose the opportunity to gain acquisition to this property, because I think it's a great opportunity. And like we said before, I think we need to strongly meet. Maybe I need to call a special meeting to go back to the town side and rescind my vote, because I know it was a contractual, and it was preamble for it also for that contract. You understand me? Because that's the position I'm saying that also. So I'm strongly, because I got the authority to do it, to call a special meeting and go back and rescind my vote on that also. I'm just being honest with you. Now, you said it's a motion on the floor. You're the chair. If you're gonna move forward with putting a motion on, it's already been moved in second, right? And probably second. Do what you gotta do.
Madam Chair.
Well, I can make my decision.
For the sake of having all issues, rescind the motion and allow me the authority to go get the appraisal. And it seems to me, once that is done, we can move forward.
I promise we can. That's my spiel on it.
Let's.
Next time,
let's
if we
rescind.
table this, and then you do that, and then you come.
That's what the master said she wanted. No, the master said she wanted. I'm sorry, the sheriff said she wanted.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I said that there was a motion on the floor and that I
But you can
was
rescind your
not
motion.
for, but I said I was not for
What's the
tabling.
convention?
She's saying she's not for tabling, but if the person who made the
That's
motion.
all I said.
That the person who made the motion and the person who seconded agreed to rescind their motion. Then we can table it and we can move forward to get whatever information the board members would like to have taken care of. And then come back and make a decision.
I think that'd be the best educated decision.
Just.
And like I said, I'm entitled to feel the way I feel, just like you're entitled to feel the way you
I
feel.
don't think this is it's just a matter of clearing, when is the appraisal being done? It's being done either at the point of the contract or having appraisal done on the property before contract.
Before.
And if that is what's gonna satisfy the board to make a decision, I don't have a problem with doing that. I just need the authority, if it exceeds our amount, to be able to pay for it. That's all I'm asking. So I don't have a problem with how you proceed. I just want the authority to be able to pay for what you're asking me to do if it exceeds our spending cap. Does that make sense, Attorney?
So even though we are in the middle of a vote, I mean, I have everybody be as passionate for it as you are against it. It's no disrespect, but but I'm saying it's no disrespect toward you, but I would like, if you're asking me to rescind the vote, I would like to know how many want to table it.
Sorry, I think I moved. We just want to withdraw my move on my motion.
Yeah, we have Washington and Mac.
And I rescind my motion on my second.
Now, could you make a motion?
Now I make a motion that we move forward with getting an appraisal before any contract's done with the help.
Just say.
Table this.
Table it with giving him the authority to move
Yeah,
forward.
to move forward with doing what he need. Yeah.
There is a motion to table.
So moved.
Second.
Question, can we at least do a letter of intent?
The letter of intent is already.
It's already there, okay. So it's been moved and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Is it necessary to do a motion, or we can just give you direction to?
No, I'm not doing nothing without the board's authorization.
It's
To
okay,
go over
we can
that
vote.
spending limit, y'all need to give me the authorization to exceed the 7,500.
What's it, okay, 7,500.
All right, so is there a motion authorizing the,
Wait a minute,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
we didn't finish the last vote. There was a move.
And second,
Second,
all in favor,
but
say
there was
aye.
not a call for the question.
We voted. We
Yeah, we
voted. Everybody said aye.
Okay,
All opposed?
Let's question.
I didn't hear that part.
Okay, all opposed? None, okay.
Okay.
So it's been,
Now we got another motion
Now,
on
okay.
it.
It's passed.
Yeah, that's for the table. Now we got another
the
motion.
next motion is for the money to do the appraisal.
Providing that I provide you 3 quotes.
All right.
Yeah.
And it's up to 7,500,
It's to exceed it.
to exceed 7,500.
Question?
We need to put a motion on her.
Motion.
Right, do the motion.
Yeah, you
So
gotta remove.
is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Question. You mentioned about 3 quotes. Can you bring that to us in writing?
They're all.
Okay, I'd like to have a copy of all 3.
Yeah. That's how-
Okay, thank you.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, so authorization has been given. That's the last item on the agenda. Any staff reports?
Yeah, I had spoke about it earlier. We are having a housing resource fair Saturday, from 10 to 1. Those vendors are prepared, if the lines are long, to stay as long as they need to accomplish, making sure our residents get applied for all these different funding programs from housing, Orange County housing, major rehab, minor rehab, code compliance, hurricane union, rehab, also up to 250,000, by the way, for that, for those residents that want. Help CDC is gonna be there with Rebuild Together. They have a program that they presented to the town council. And do funding for 25 homes and then create a waiting list for the next application to get more funding to do 25 homes. Council for Aging does weatherization for all of Orange County and Osceola County. So we're trying to work with them and get weatherization money in here to help those residents then. Additionally, outside of this purchase and all that conversation, I want the board to understand we have to get the redevelopment plan updated, completed. That is a community process. It's gonna require 2 public hearings before it comes to you as a board. Staff is already working on their recommendations and they're being included in that plan. So when it goes to the staff, then it's going to the community, then it's gonna come to you in your official capacity as the board for approval. Then it goes to the town council, then it goes to Orange County. In between the CRA board's approval and the town council's approval, me expressly will be meeting with Orange County in advance of the final document coming to make sure their concerns are being addressed in the plan update also. So I just want to brief everybody on that process. We hope to have this wrapped up, the community process, the board processes, and to the county by the end of May. And hopefully we have an approved, updated plan in June, I'm sorry, it's in June. Yes. So that's all I know the attorney has.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And the importance of having that done by June is because on July 1st of 2025, whatever the date is that your CRA is to terminate is going to be determined by that. So that's why it's so important to get that new plan in place so that you can set the date that it's going to either be before but not beyond September 30th of 2045. The Florida legislature currently has House Bill 991, Senate Bill 1242, where they are seriously going to sunset. I believe this time they tried it back in 2017. I think they're really truly going to get it done this time. So that plan is going to be of utmost importance to get that done. The other thing also, and if you all just give me just one moment, I believe that there was a question asked of me with regards to bringing motions from the floor or walk on motions. I did bring with me the Government in the Sunshine Manual, specifically as it relates to agendas, page 39 of the 2025 manual. And what it does, it authorizes that the board can bring motions, walk-on motions. There is a suggestion and recommendation by the Attorney General's office that if it is something of controversy that you post it on the agenda, but it is not a requirement. It's just a recommendation of the Attorney General. So I just wanted to make sure that you all are aware that you can have walk-on motions, that you can actually bring motions from the floor. But the best practice is, if it's controversial, that you actually give notice of it, or either table it or move it to another day. Ms. Johnson asked a question. I wanted to make sure that I understood and that I answered a question just real quickly. My understanding of the question was the executive director authorized to move monies in order to make a purchase? The bylaws that this agency ratified in July of 2023, which are bylaws that I actually helped to craft, based on the bylaws of this board, as well as the bylaws of 6 other municipalities, and pulling those things together. This board actually has given the executive director the authorization to handle the financial operation of the board, which means that if as long as the board understands that it's okay with that, that the executive director, whoever it is, because at the time it was, I don't think there was an executive director at the time, but whoever the executive director is, can use funds as long as they're able to justify where those funds came from, where those funds went, per the bylaws of 2023 that this board is currently operating under. That can change if the board would like, but that is what this board has put in place as of 2023. And that's all of it.
Okay. Board member.
The only report that I would like to hear in this right now for me will be what's going on with Club Heat. Could you give us an update?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Smith in Tallahassee has concurred with me that there should have been a structural engineering report done on that building before any money was received. Because if it wasn't, everything right now is waiting on that structural engineering report to decide 2 things. First of all, if all walls structurally sound to build on, and is the foundation structurally sound to build on. We all know that building has been in existence since 1942. My guess is we're gonna get the answer, it's not. Then they have to decide, they're not offering any new monies. The The money that's allocated is the money that's allocated. So a new budget is gonna have to be done to take into account demolition and moving that foundation and rebuilding. Which, by the way, he has already acknowledged is gonna eat up most of the money. So the most we're probably gonna end up with down there is a shell. It's not gonna be a functioning building. So, understanding that, he's been asked to do three things. One, determine the outcome of that piece of property. And is it suitable to waste $1 million? Or two, find a new site in which to do the same project. Or three, because the owner has not provided this $250,000 match to the grant to terminate the grant. So that's where we're at right now. And that's where we're going. Also, the property owner has approached me as early as today about us buying it. Because there are certain things, we do have the capacity to acquire the property and ensure we have a performing arts and entertainment center. But that has to be done through an LOI that has to go through the CDBG process, Orange County, for acquisition. They're only gonna provide us 75%. We still have to have the other 25% match. So there's a process that's going on right now, trying to figure out that minutia. I am, because that's an administrative thing, are gonna present him with the LOI on Monday. He knows that, he's expecting it, and we're gonna move forward on a two-pronged approach, waiting to see what the state decides and positioning ourselves to step in if we have to not to lose the $1.25 million. So
Now,
that's where
what
we're
were
at.
you gonna tell us that? Because if I had not asked that question, that would have never come up tonight.
I'm only answering you today because you asked me in a public forum, but I was, like I just told you, that discussion with the property owner just happened today. So there's a lot of administrative things that's going on that the board is not privy because it's not ready to be brought to you yet. But I just went ahead and told you now. I didn't have to, but I wanted you to know since you asked me in public.
Well, okay,
Board, is it,
okay. Thank you.
board member, Mac?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for just coming out, being engaged in CRA business. I think we're profoundly moving forward. We're just trying to get some things done in this community. And we're obligated, and I think it's important that we do spend the funds that are provided to us from Orange County and from the federal level to do things, especially with board member Critton stated before, buying blighted areas that we could buy, you know what I'm saying? Because we have a lot of blighted areas around here in this community that we need to look forward and buy. And if we have an opportunity to buy everything around here, I think we need to move forward in doing that. But I think we're in a great position. I know we had a lot of dialogue tonight in terms of having different opinions on how we look at things, but I think that's what makes us operate the way we operate also as a board. And Mr. Johnson, I would like to give you your flowers with just putting boots on the ground, man, and just pushing forward with. And I know you got a tough job, and that was why I strongly suggested that we do the super majority vote. But I'm willing to do whatever it is that this board want to do, and especially the citizens to move forward with doing things that's going to be good for the community also. So salute to you, man, and everything you're doing, and that you're going to continue doing. This board want to help you out in any way possible to make sure that you're successful as a board and executive director, man. And I mean that. Because I know we've had so many issues and problems in the past, man, and I don't want to continue having those issues moving forward. And if all minds and hearts are clear, man, that's pretty much my report. Thank you.
Board member Daniels?
Yes, Are we going to, cause I agree with Dr. Finley, I don't think that space is big enough for multicultural or recreation center. Are you still going with the concept of the Elizabeth Park that you proposed back in 2020? Cause we got that appraised and that was that the pool, 142 Southwest Street?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was just that resolution, I mean, it's for public record, resolution 2020-39 is when, I guess the town or the CRA was trying to purchase that land, the pool and the, tennis courts. And as a rendering and everything right here in my email of the Elizabeth Park townhomes, I'm assuming so.
Okay.
And it was appraised at 140, so I don't know what
So,
that is.
so let me address the Elizabeth Park project.
Okay.
Back then, there was a concept to develop those vacant tracts of land and that daycare project to become Elizabeth Park townhomes. That was submitted, I'm correct, Chair, to the federal government, HUD,
Yes, dear.
and we were awarded $4.1 million to do that project. It is not my recommendation. I'm only provided you a concept on Tuesday night. You have the authority, if we acquire that land, to decide, not you, the town council, by the way, has the authority to say how that grant is being applied and who's doing what. That is not right now a issue for us. That is something that is in your hands as elected leaders of town council to decide how that project moves forward. That is not, you will not get a recommendation from me. You will get a recommendation from Mr. Presley and the mayor, because that's in that arena. It is not in this arena.
Yes, now with that being said, the daycare was still, I got the map right here, it wasn't included in it. The daycare was still
So
here.
put it on the backside of the swing.
Yeah, no, it was taking up all the swimming pool and going, taking up the basketball court. I got it right here.
You're asking about something in 2019 that.
No, 2020. It was 2020.
I haven't looked at it since
Yeah.
2020. That's why.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. You're saying that we was going to get the daycare and it's not. I'm looking at the map saying it was excluded. So what we're gonna do, I'm assuming is we're gonna put the
Build around it.
townhomes, right, build around it, take the pool
And
and the basketball courts and the tennis courts away. We was gonna put homes there. So, I mean, I just went back and looked.
You may be 100% right. I
Yes, sir.
looked at it since 2020.
Yeah, I got it right.
Okay.
All right. And that's my report. Have a good night.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, y'all said that, I had no.
And I need to correct that. That Elizabeth Park back then was also a way to fix the issue with the town owing the CRA money.
Exactly.
And that was one of the ways. When I came in 2022 as mayor, the pool, we didn't know what was gonna happen. The ability to get the appropriations came up, so then there were two other locations that I had suggested for the appropriations, and I was told with the person I was helping me, no, let's get something that is not occupied. So that's when the Elizabeth Park area came up. That's why that particular location was on the appropriations request, and knowing also that if the appropriations was received, then we could possibly move the location. It wasn't a change in focus, just looking at other options. And then we got the pool done. So to me, that location kind of went out of the picture, and other locations with the $2 million could be used. So we can find a better location. It's options, not focus. My focus never shifted. And I just want to say that the sad part about what I heard tonight is so much misinformation. And I think that if you just pick up the phone and call, ask your question. But it's always something else brewing, always. And we talk about transparency, but we're not being transparent. We're not. We're not. But with that, thank everyone for coming out. Oh, someone? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I actually have a report tonight, so. And I was starting to hear, send it there, I was starting there. Saving us some last.
I apologize.
And I'll keep this short. Director Johnson, for Saturday's event, and I've been pushing it because I think it's a beautiful thing and a great partnership and something beautiful to put our name on. Do you need us in attendance?
I would expect all the leaders of the community to be in attendance.
Touche.
Because this is a captive audience of your constituent base.
Absolutely. Question answered. Do we have a CRA table? Do we have a literature table and all of that?
Yes.
Okay. Are we as directors excluded or prohibited in any way from taking advantage of any of the resources that are available?
If you
I can use some new
qualify,
cabinets.
if you qualify, get in line and get your resources.
Thank you. Director, or excuse me, Vice Chair Washington. Not that you need it from me, but because you asked it, it made me go digging. That copy, if y'all don't have it, of the current bylaws that we're using, the most recent email that that has just that single document in it is from July 18th of 2024. If you need a copy of it, I don't know that you do, but it came up, so it triggered me to go looking for it. Attorney Jackson, can motions from the floor have public participation?
The board says she was just a
Okay. And then in regards to House Bill 991 and Senate Bill 1242, because I feel like there is still a lot of work that we can do as CRA agencies. I think that it should be a priority, and maybe, your schedule permits, maybe it doesn't. I will find the time. I would like to go to Tallahassee to be heard. I know that those hearings are public, and I am interested in having something to say about getting rid of CRAs, especially as it relates to the town of Eatonville, because we are moving in a decent direction and we do have an opportunity to continue to do some good work, regardless of what has transpired over the last 28 years. So I would encourage the rest of the board, I got a little gas money and I got 8 seats in Big John. If y'all want to ride, we can go on. It's a 270-mile ride. I made it a million times in the course of 5-6 years. I encourage that we all kind of go up there and let our voices be heard on behalf of the community. And condolences, because y'all get to say it on Tuesday, but I would definitely like to say some of the losses that we've had in the community, I felt on a personal level. So condolences to some of the families in the community that are in a bereavement period right now. And thank y'all for coming out.
Be in session next week.
I was gonna say, you only have one week. Yeah.
Okay, shoot me a
Next
date.
week. So,
I'm gonna say that's up, Big John.
we got preparation going on.
I'm ready.
So I've been doing time.
Board member,
I'll take a reimbursement.
board member Williams.
No,
All right, everybody's spoke. All right, with that being,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that this Ada Sims funeral is next Saturday at the Hope Church in Orlando. And on Friday, 11, I think it's at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, Mitchell's funeral. You would like to go to the wake next Friday. At Mitchell's funeral.
can you send it out to everybody in the email?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, that being said, move for adjournment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Aye. It is 8:59, we are adjourned. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry.
Attorney Jackson, don't get this in your head. I had a question.